HBO Max's latest hit series, House of the Dragon, a prequel to the highly popular Game of Thrones, is an instant hit with fans. People started watching with relatively low expectations, especially considering how disappointing the last season of Game of Thrones turned out, but we're in for a pleasant surprise. Meanwhile, the same can't be said for Amazon's Rings of Power, a prequel to the infamous Lord of the Rings series. First up, are the two shows actually similar? Despite being drastically different in tone, there's still some similarities present between the two. They're both being aired at more or less the same time, they're both adapted from smash hit fantasy book series, both had a pretty strong debut, and are prequels to the respective shows. Also, both of them have a really huge budget, so there's that. So why is it that one's faring far better than the other? From general viewer interest to platform streaming numbers, The House of the Dragon has proven to be far superior from almost every angle compared to Rings of Power, with over 29 million viewers in the US alone. Now that's an impressive number. Let's look at Amazon's Rings of Power first. Despite having spectacularly eye-catching visuals and gorgeous characters, the series still struggles to engage its viewers and reel in a new audience as well. There's some confusion regarding who the main characters are and what they actually want. There are also quite a few stereotypical fantasy tropes present throughout the series, like ancient prophecies, ominous powers slowly gaining power, and mysterious elves, all of which seem to be Tolkien classics. Next up, it fails to retain the audience's attention. People who aren't familiar with the highly intricate and complex world building, mythology, and lore already present in the Lord of the Rings universe aren't too keen to invest their time into something that needs so much background research. That's probably one of the main reasons why pre-existing Tolkien fans seem to be the ones who are majorly hyped about this show. Also, they're notoriously nerdy and picky when it comes to Tolkien's written texts. On top of that, Amazon sort of rolled the dice by hiring new and seemingly unknown actors. There's also controversy regarding how the different races are portrayed in Middle-earth, with fans having mixed opinions about the whole thing. Not to mention the theme of Rings of Power feels a little unclear. The second half more or less seems to be a setup for future conflicts in the storyline, with quite a few filler scenes and lots of introductions to new characters with intense backstories. The world building feels a little too vast as we travel from the Southlands to Khazad-dûm, Lindon, and back to Hobbiton. On top of that, the overall production, especially the costume design, makeup, and set design, seems a little underwhelming considering the budget. On the plus side, Amazon is extra committed to the series and is determined to make it last, with 5 seasons already confirmed. What's more, they've also front-loaded their investment in this series already. That's definitely going to give us ample time to get used to the characters and the storyline without having to worry about a random unexpected cancellation, so that sounds comforting to say the least. Next up, House of the Dragon. It's an instant hit already. First of all, the momentum and tone of the entire show have been successful in grabbing the internet's attention immediately after its launch and have been matched by tons of positive reviews. People just can't stop talking about it, and it's taken the internet by storm, with people tweeting about it, filming entire video essays discussing the plot and characters, to creating amazing fan art, and the list goes on. There's also a strong sense of nostalgia attached to the show, mainly due to the intense grip that Game of Thrones had in its time. Up next, the plot is more engaging. The show has a captivating plot as we head back to our beloved Westeros once again. House of the Dragon features classic Game of Thrones tropes, from visually stunning yet borderline insane Targaryens to powerful CGI dragons and tons of controversial gore and blood, and all these factors combined are a recipe for popularity, internet chatter, and dialogues that can even have the potential to become popular Instagram captions. It's honestly very easy to have an opinion on the show. On top of that, the characters are very well written, and the dynamics present amongst them are clearly defined. The storyline is even easy to digest, even if you aren't as familiar with Game of Thrones. More importantly, the show's female characters shine through, with powerful female leads with distinct personalities, especially in comparison to Game of Thrones. The hobbits just can't compete with that now, can they? Not to mention the new dragons are marvelous. Already 6 different dragons have appeared in the first 4 episodes alone, with impressive CGI that feels a little too real to be fictional. They act and move extremely realistically and aren't born from magic like their HBO predecessors. The dragons are also set to cause a lot of destruction later on in the series, promising even more screen time. Co-creator Ryan Condal teased about there being as many as 17 different dragons by the time the show wraps up its final season. How exciting! Last but not least, the excellent cast speaks for itself. The character dynamics have been set with stunning performances and beautiful costume design. The Targaryens are as mad and as inbred as ever, with serious incest problems and gruesome childbirth sacrifices. They meet all the standard Targaryen standards for sure. With all of these pretty problematic stances, why is it that platinum blondes always seem to rein in the most attention from fans? That may be because of how fascinating they are. The politics and the infighting between the different families battling to rule over Westeros are what make the show so captivating. The characters are constantly trying to outsmart and surpass potential rivals, and that's what House of the Dragon is all about. The show was so good that only the first season made fans literally forget about the disaster that happened in the first season of Game of Thrones 3 years ago. Now that's a huge flex in our opinion. Next, in other news, let's hear about what the Mother of Dragons herself thinks about the House of the Dragon. You might be thinking that after what happened in Game of Thrones' devastating final season, the actress might not be looking forward to its prequel, but it's actually quite the opposite. Clark is super excited about the Targaryen spin-off and says it's mildly surreal to see all of that again. She also advises the House of the Dragon actors to go for wigs instead of bleaching their own hair platinum white to fit into their roles. She recalls how she had to ultimately chop off all her hair after she ended up completely frying it because she decided to bleach it for the final season of Game of Thrones. Yikes. The new House of the Dragon actors better heed the warning if they have any love for their hair. Next up, did Rings of Power star Morfydd Clark really go to therapy for a role? The actress recently told Empire in an interview about how she needed to get exposure therapy in order to play her character Galadriel, an ethereal warrior elf, because during scenes, she'd flinch or get frightened as a horde of people came running towards her. Sounds frightening. She revealed that during her exposure therapy, there'd been these huge men carrying swords and shields running toward her at full speed while shouting and screaming. Now that's a lot to get used to. She also stated that she's been a Lord of the Rings fan since childhood and was over the moon of getting the chance to play Galadriel, which is why she didn't want to mess this one up at all. Huge props to this queen, because we're sure having a stampede of scary looking men charging at you with swords is not everyone's cup of tea. Finally, let's talk about what House of the Dragon star Matt Smith thinks about working on the series. From portraying the beloved 11th Doctor in BBC's Doctor Who to Prince Philip in The Crown, Matt Smith is easily a fan favorite. Despite being in the biz for over a decade, the actor was still in for a tough time, as a show like House of the Dragon involves brutal night shoots, extremely long shooting hours, pretend fights on CGI dragons, intense battles, and much more. This is sure to exhaust anyone, but Matt Smith seems to have found a solution for it, as he shared a funny thing that kept his morale up during the long working hours. Smith, who plays the fiery Daemon Targaryen, explained to Insider that watching his young co-star Fabian Frankel struggle to do basic, everyday tasks like sitting while wearing a full-on suit of armor always got a laugh out of him. We can't imagine how tedious it must be to walk around in a full suit of armor for so long, but the actors definitely make it work. That's a wrap for this video. Let us know which TV show you think is better down in the comments. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.